anyway, so that should be okay. Okay, so what that is going to look like for you guys. Sorry, I couldn't move this over before for some reason. So if you hit Command P, you see this pop open. Did anybody get to this point where they have VS Code going and they have Git and they have Homebrew? Is everybody doing okay? I don't want to move ahead I don't want to leave anybody behind. But we're gonna hit that forward bracket key, and then you should be able to start typing shell, or I think you just say install code. If you say install code, that should be the only thing that pops up. And then you can click on that and you'll see shell command code successfully installed a path. So anybody have issues with that? Cool. So what that's going to do is allow us to open this from the terminal. So we can go ahead and close VS Code now. And let's make sure we have the command line markdown document open. This is linked out from the bottom of the curriculum from the lesson plan we just had. So if you guys have this lesson plan open, you can scroll all the way down to the bottom for command line. And then for the lesson on the command line, please check out the interactive repo. So click on that link. It will take you into here. Give me a thumbs up if you guys all have this page open. But the lesson plans are a lot more thorough than even what we're talking about here. We've bounced around a bunch of all the technical issues and crap. So you should be able to follow these even better when we go back, and I can help you out with any of that in the future. Cool. So we are talking about the command line. I know we have wasted a bunch of time, so we're going to do this quickly. Sorry, guys. We talked about how you hear the command line reference to the terminal, the CLI, command prompt, shell. We're talking about it in terms of the terminal usually, and also the CLI. A little background on the terminal and why it's important, why we use it. So before we had GUIs, graphical user interfaces, which is like screens with a mouse pointer. The only way you could interact with the computer was through the terminal. And that was the case for a very, very long time. And even the introduction of a terminal in the first place, where you could type words and interact with the screen, was that was a huge like novelty and something that was a boon for users. Back in the late 60s, I think, is when that probably started happening. But they had these old terminals, basically, which were a way to compute data where people would write code, and they would actually write code on pen and paper on these like IBM sheets where they could write different characters for their code, and then they would have people double check it and use programming books to reference it. And this is in the 60s and in the 70s. People would write their code like that, and then they turn their code into somebody who would punch their code into a punch card. And there were these like machines that kind of look like this. There were a bunch of different ones, but IBM actually made machines like this. And they would type in this code manually, almost like a literal typewriter, but it just punched holes in these cards. And then these cards could be used to process data, and they'd have to organize their software. So their whole program would end up being like a stack of cards. It's like 2 or 3 inches thick. That is just completely analog. And this is kind of the beginning of typing commands into a machine, into a computer, to give it instructions and as to what to do. And that has evolved into having screens on our computers and being able to actually get responses back, and the software that lives inside of the machine itself when we had more storage and computing power. And getting to the point we're at now today. And the cool thing is that still today, the most efficient way to interact with your computer is by using the terminal still. So that's what we are going to be using, and developers consistently use this to run tools for their work. Okay, so let's open the terminal if you can. One of the easiest ways to get to it, and one of the ways that I like to do it, is by hitting Command Space, and you can just type terminal. Command Space opens Spotlight in Mac. And this is a useful tool that I use a lot for opening different pieces of software. I actually have a different terminal downloaded that I prefer. It's called Hyper. I can share this guys with you later if you like, but I got the font all bumped up and everything, so we can use this. So if we open up our terminal, you should see at the beginning, you see something like your name, or if it's a work computer, some random number, and it's going to tell you where you are. And you should see a little tiny squiggly, which is a tilde. That's just the name of that character, and you'll see that above the tab key on your keyboard. So if you guys don't see the exact same thing, that's totally fine. Everybody's just kind of configured a little bit differently. I have mine to say that I'm on Tatooine, but this will probably say that you are on the name of your computer, like Sean's Mac or something like that. And then this is basically just means home. This is like, I'm at the beginning of my computer, the home directory. like where you would be if you open the Finder up. So if you open up Finder and it just kind of shows you the default view, that's basically what tilde means here. So getting started on some of the very first commands you're going to want to learn how to use here. The most important command, in my opinion, is probably ls. So ls is a list command. And all of these commands I'm going to mention are in this GitHub page. So you'll be able to reference all these commands, go back to them. You're definitely going to need these, need to reference this for notes for when you're doing the homework. But let's go ahead and type ls, and hit enter. So you're going to see different things than I do, obviously, but you should see a list of, definitely you should see desktop, library, pictures, probably applications if you're on Mac. And you recognize those as, you know, things that you're normally going to see if you are like just looking at these pieces here. So you can kind of see a little bit of parity between how this is displayed, like how it displays these directories, and then how you actually see them here in the Finder. So it's not a bad idea to think about this kind of like a Finder, because that's how you're just navigating your directories and your folders and your files. So ls is really important because it lists everything for where you currently are. We are currently at tilde at the home directory. So if we wanted to change directories, and when we use the term directory, we talk about directories and folders are kind of interchangeable. So usually when you're looking at a Finder, like visually, you talk about it like a folder because it's always had that little icon that's been created. But when we're talking about it in you know, terminal language and programming, you usually refer to them as directories. So if we want to change directories from our home directory, we're going to use a command cd, and cd stands for change directory. So we take cd and we can put in an argument here, or it's called an operand, and we can cd into any one of these folders if we want, as long as it is a folder. Some of these, you know, I have one here that's a file, and that won't allow me to change directories into it because it is not a directory. So go ahead and pick one. You're going to cd into it. I'm going to do desktop. And one thing that's really handy is if you start typing, you can hit tab and it will complete for you. So if I type desk and hit tab, it should fill that out because that's the only directory that starts with the word desk. And then we'll hit enter. And whatever you chose, whatever directory you picked to move into, you should see that it displayed a little thing about where you are. This doesn't always happen for everybody depending on their setup. Does anybody not see in this little location bar an updated piece of information with tilde for where they landed? Okay, you don't see that. Cool. So if you don't see that,
it says mine just has Travis's MacBook Pro : desktop.
Okay. Okay.
But
so
no tilde.
So go ahead and just type cd, which stands for change directory, with no operands, and hit enter. So just by itself. Does that change that at all?
Yeah. So now it's Travis's MacBook Pro : TWO.
Okay. So now you see the tilde. So that's something that we can change in configuration. Sometimes it will automatically spit you out to a specific directory when you open the terminal. Generally, you want it to take you to the home directory, which is tilde. And the reason that just typing cd took you back there is cd without any parameters, without any operands, just takes you to the home directory. That's like what it by default does. So if you're like 20 levels deep inside of a bunch of folders, you can just type cd and it will automatically to just spit you all the way back out to the home directory. So that's a really handy shortcut to use. And we do at the very beginning of this, it says, you know, if you don't see the tilde, you can just type cd and hit enter. So in case you forgot, that is in the guide here. Okay. So we changed directory into a directory, and we were able to see what was there. Another thing, if you get lost and you're navigating through your terminal and you're like, I don't really know where I am, because that's one of the confusing things that people have trouble with at the beginning, is that there's no visual representation of where you are, other than, you know, things like the /desktop, but sometimes that doesn't seem like enough. Don't forget, the most important thing you can do is just type ls to see, you know, what's here, what do we have, Sorry, I went back to tilde, but in desktop, that's going to list different items. To type ls to see what is inside of the directory you're at, that'll probably give you a clue as to where you landed. If that still doesn't give you a hint, you can type something called pwd, and this stands for print working directory. And really what that just means, print means spit it out, tell me, and then working directory is where you are, like what directory you're working in right now. So pwd is going to tell you kind of your location. So I'm in users mr1. So if I cd into desktop, like we had done at the beginning, and then I do that same command, print working directory tells me I am in users, my name, desktop. So print working directory is a really helpful command in case you ever need to know where you are, or especially even if you have like a file in this directory and it's really nested, like really deep, and you need to copy the file path somewhere, you can use pwd to give you that file path that will help you copy that a lot faster. So there's different uses for that, but kind of just, it generally means where am I? How can I find out where I am? Cool. And then another really important piece is the ... and dot. And what I mean by that is if you want to change directories backwards, like if I just wanted to go back to mkdir1, but I didn't want to go all the way back to users, or let's say I go into another folder. So let's say I'm in public, cd public, cd into, okay, sorry. Okay, so what I did was I navigated into another directory. So I'm in users, mkdir1, desktop, work. So I'm multiple directories deep in a directory structure here. And this should look familiar to what you have in Finder. So in Finder, you can open folders within folders within folders. That's all we're doing here. If I wanted to just go back to desktop, but I didn't want to hit CD to take me all the way to the home directory, you're going to use ... So period, basically. You're going to do CD, and then you're going to put a space, because you have to put a space between these commands here. So you do CD, which is our change directory, and then space, and then where do I want to change directories? ... basically means I want to go back one directory. So if we do CD ... this is going to take me into desktop. So you should see that change, and you can type print working directory, and you'll see that, oh, okay, now I'm just in desktop. So that took me back one. If you wanted to do more than that, I'm going back into work right now, so we can show this going back multiple times. We could go back all the way to mkdir1 by doing that twice. So if we do CD space ... slash ... what this is basically saying is go back two directories. So this basically is kind of, we're preemptively like pulling out a roadmap and saying, where do I want to change directories into? I want to go back one, and then I'm going to go back again. And if we run this, we see that took us all the way back to tilde. So that was the same as typing CD, but just because we happen to only be two away from home directory. So we can use these with the slash, and the slash kind of means, okay, that directory, and then let's go again. Because if you do ... without anything between them, that won't be valid. So you can do this as many times as you want. If you were in 20 directories deep, you could do this, and this would be valid. And this would take you back just however many double dots you have, that many directories is where it would take you back. The other cool thing about this, that might seem kind of useless just for going backwards, but if you were in work and you're doing a lot of work in the terminal, you're learning how to navigate quickly, you can use this to say, okay, I'm in this work directory here, and I want to go back and I want to just enter a different one, but it's also inside of desktop. Instead of going CD ... and then you're moving yourself back into desktop, your working directory into desktop, and then moving into another folder, you could do CD ... slash, and then type another directory name. So this would actually take you backwards into desktop and then move you into another directory name, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of a way you can navigate really fast without having to like personally bring yourself back. If you know the path of where something is, you can use the ... slash to navigate very quickly. So that's a really handy piece to know. Those are the most basic and the most important commands that you're going to be using. And when you're going through the homework here, you're going to be using those a ton. Those are going to be like your main go-to, like typing them a million times a minute commands is ls, cd, cd ... and yeah, those are really the main ones just for navigating. So that's kind of how you just move around in the terminal, which is awesome.
Also, if you are typing something and you hit tab, it'll autocomplete it for you.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And one thing that's kind of cool too, that, like you're saying, Sean, is if you hit tab with, and there's multiple options, it should give you those options, and you can actually use the arrow keys to navigate between them. So if you had a bunch of things that started with the letters, AP, then you could type AP and it'll give you a bunch of options. So that's kind of nice. Just there's a lot of helpful little shortcuts and pieces like that in the terminal that we'll learn, forever. There's so many things to learn in here. But yeah, that's a good point, Sean. Okay, let's do a little like hands-on example and build something really fast. So if anybody likes Star Wars, my Star Warsy example for how to remember that is that Tatooine is a backwater planet, like backwards, because ... brings you back, and there are two suns, like a ... So there's two suns in a backwater planet. They take you backwards. It's a really rough, huge stretch, but I love it. Okay. So let's see, what did we do? Did we start building something already here? No, we didn't. Okay. So we're going to learn a few more commands. We're kind of just going to go ahead and blow through some of these. These are all noted in this file, so you'll be able to go back and reference this markdown file for all of these, but we're just going to kind of learn a handful, a smattering of more commands you can use. So let's go ahead and go into a directory that you could kind of be a throwaway directory, something that isn't particularly a big deal, or maybe just your home directory, because we can delete all this stuff later. But move yourself into a position that you are happy to like make files and make some test pieces and whatnot. We're not going to do anything destructive, but wherever you want to start, I'm just going to go ahead and do it right here. So I am going to I'm going to do it in test. Okay, sorry. Now we're following along. All right. So we're going to create a file, and we are going to call it Luke Skywalker. We're going to give it the extension of txt. When you're creating files, there's a couple things here. You cannot use spaces. You really don't want to use spaces, because if you do a space here, it's going to interpret this as two separate commands. It's going to say Luke is a command, and then this is an operand for that command. And initially it's actually going to say this is, touch is a command, and then it's going to take Luke and it's going to say, okay, I actually don't know what the heck this is. This is an invalid argument. So you need to make sure that when you're making files, you always connect them somehow with an underscore or a dash or camel case. It's fine to use a kebab case, as they call it, or just the dashes here for this. Touch is a command that creates files. Why it's called touch, I have no idea. It's like a magic touch that just makes stuff happen. So we are going to run touch luke_skywalker.txt. When you run things in the terminal, this is one thing that can kind of be a learning curve for people. It doesn't really look like anything happened, but it did. It most likely did. And the way that you can test that is by looking for what you did or what you created. So we created a file in this test directory here. So we can run ls to list what's inside of it. By running list, we see that it's there. That's awesome. Otherwise, we wouldn't really know where it went, because you ran the command and you didn't really get any output. It trusts that you know what you're doing, and it doesn't give you a lot of confirmation. So we see that we created a file in here. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and move this file. Let's move this file into a directory. We want to create a new directory for this to be in, first of all. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a command called mkdir, which is make directory, mkdir. So make directory is a command. We hit a space, and then the operand for this is just the name of the directory that you want to create. And we're going to call this tauntaun. Mkdir, and you don't need to put any kind of end file type onto a directory, because it's just like an empty folder. It's like create new folder on the desktop or whatever. So we're going to mkdir tauntaun. And then what do we run to check and make sure that everything's there? We run list. Sweet. Your terminal may actually give you a different color or a different boldness of directories versus files, which is kind of a nice visual way to just know whether or not something is a directory or a file. So from here, let's go ahead and move Luke Skywalker into our tauntaun directory. So to do that, there's another command called the move, which is mv. So we're going to say move Luke Skywalker. We can go ahead and use our tab to autocomplete that. We're going to do space. We're going to do tauntaun. So, and that is not correct. I did mv. Okay, so mv for move. space, and then MD takes two operands. It takes the file you want to move, and then it takes the directory you want to move it into. So we're going to move Luke Skywalker into the TomTom. Sweet. Once again, doesn't really tell us what happened. So we're going to list to see what that did for us. And we see Luke Skywalker's gone, which is expected because we moved him. So we don't expect the original file to still be there. And we hope he's inside the TomTom. But ls didn't show us what's inside TomTom because that's another directory. So what we need to do is we need to enter the TomTom, go into it. So we're going to change directories into TomTom. And then we can check to see where Luke Skywalker ended up. So we're going to run our ls and we say, okay, sweet. So Luke Skywalker is inside of our TomTom. And how do we know that we're in the right place? We know that by either checking the top here, checking in our terminal where it says we are located, or by running print working directory, pwd. Print working directory will also tell us where we are. Okay, so we're in the TomTom. We ran ls. We see that Luke Skywalker's there. Very cool. So that was, we created a file, we created a directory, and we moved a file into this new directory that we created. So we are like taking actions that can be done using the Finder, using a mouse and keyboard, and doing it with just text and just commands, which is really cool. And this, you'll find that this is infinitely faster once you get comfortable with this syntax and like working with your computer in this way. You can do things way, way, way faster by using the terminal. So it's highly recommended even for people who aren't, and there are some people who aren't even engineers who use it just because they get comfortable with it and it is a faster way to work. Okay, has everybody been able to follow along with this so far? Sorry, Nathan, but yeah, we can go through all this together again later. Okay, sweet. So let's go ahead and create another file inside of TomTom. So to create files, we use the touch command, and we're gonna touch guts. We're gonna make this a text file because TomToms have guts in them. We are also going to touch another file called bad smells.txt because TomToms are full of bad smells. Sweet. And then what do we run to see that all of our stuff ended up in there? We run ls list. Cool. So we're in our TomTom. We made some stuff. We added some things. We see multiple files. And let's go ahead and let's add another folder, add another directory into TomTom. To do that, we're going to type make directory. And we're going to call it stomach, another piece of a TomTom that's inside of it. To see, we run ls. Very cool. We see that our stomach has been added. Now let's go into the stomach. So change directories into the stomach, which is with cd. Very cool. And if we run ls, a lot of people make it a habit as soon as you change directories just to run ls. You just run ls to check and see what's there. That's a quick way to make sure that you know where you're going, you're navigating, you're kind of looking ahead to what's happening. So that's just a common thing to do. So we made a stomach inside of this. We went inside of it. Now let's make another file. So we're going to make a file, and by making a file, we are doing that with the touch command. So we're going to touch. And so you probably notice here that when you're making stuff, it's really just two things. You're doing mkdir for making directories, and you're using touch for creating files. Mkdir, touch. Those are really the only two things for creating stuff that you need to know. So we're going to touch a file called hothog.html. That's hot. Okay, hothog.html. So you notice I added a different file extension here. This doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want here. And this is another powerful piece of the terminal, is if you go into the Finder, and you go into desktop on your Mac or on Linux, and you try to just create a file, Linux will probably let you do this, but on Mac, it doesn't let you just give it any kind of extension that you want. You actually have to use third-party software to create any file with any extension. It's like an empty file. It won't let you do it. So this is one of the powerful things, is that the terminal allows you to do a lot of different stuff, and it allows you to say, you can do whatever you want. You can make whatever kind of file. So we just created an HTML file here as soon as we run this, which is already, we're kind of seeing some of the power of the terminal that the Finder doesn't have. If we run ls, we see that our file has been added in there. It's empty. There's nothing in it, but we did successfully add an actual HTML file. Before we did text files with txt, and it's just because we decided what extension to give them. Also, Hothog is an actual canon Star Wars creature that a Tauntaun might eat, in case you guys wanted to know. We found that on the old Wikipedia. Okay, so now we are inside of the stomach of the Tauntaun. So let's go back. Let's go back outside of the Tauntaun. if we wanted to change directories outside of the tauntaun, we're going to do cd, right? And then remember how we went backwards? We went backwards with dot dot, and then we want to go back again, put a slash to say I want to go another one. cd dot dot slash dot dot slash. We hit enter. This is going to take us all the way out. So we should see this change. We should see no longer tilde test tauntaun stomach. We should see tilde test. That should be all we see. So let's run it. Sweet. Okay. So that quickly took us all the way out of tauntaun, but it didn't take us all the way back to the home directory because we specifically knew where we were trying to go. So we navigated really quickly back to wherever we were. And you may, if you created this directory inside of tilde, it will take you just back to tilde. No big deal. It'll just take you out of there because we said twice. Okay. Now there's a GIF that says Han Solo saying, "I thought they smelled bad on the outside because we put bad smells on the inside." Nice. Yeah, the joke lands a lot better when you're reading.
Hey, Michael.
Yo, what's up?
Quick utility question. My terminal looks absolutely nothing like yours with all the pretty colors and stuff. It's just white and text.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure that.
Yeah. Ooh, Travis, is that just for me that you cut out, or did anybody else hear what he's saying right now? Did you mute yourself? Oh,
sorry, that's my bad. No,
Muted
I was just saying, like, how do I get the pretty one?
so this is something called ZSH, Z shell, and using ZSH, and then also using bash rc, which is basically a file that you can go into to configure all this stuff and change how things look.
Gotcha.
It's just some nerdy. You can get into to just customize things for fun.
Okay.
So
I'll figure it out later.
It is helpful to get though, because you can tell the difference between directories and text files. Well,
yeah, that's really why I was like, could be useful.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just totally for visual appeal. It is fun. The reason I got this specific kind of terminal because this is like gradient border. That is literally the only reason I have this one in particular. But the actual text highlighting comes from something called Z shell. So go ahead and look that up. I'll just Slack that ZSH. Well, actually, just look up ZSH, and then ZSH. It's really handy. So if you look at those two things, you should probably be able to find some guides on how to update this stuff and find things. And then there's also a app called iTerm that is I highly recommend. iTerm is really nice. I'm using one called Hyper, which is a different terminal, but it can be a little buggier, and I think it has a memory leak, so it can eat up a bunch of your computer's resources, which maybe is part of the reason these Zoom sessions are crashing. But iTerm is really great, and then using ZSH and ZSH. These are this is separate from these guys, but if you read about those, you'll learn more. But yeah, highly recommend those. Those are great for directory stuff, and just visualizing things. So thanks, Sean. I just didn't want to have too many things for everybody to download beforehand, but I got the envy going by showing you guys, so that's good. Okay, sweet. So we navigated, we created some stuff, we made directories, we made files. Awesome. So we learned print working directory. We can say, where are we, where are we located? We came back out here. That's what we expected. If we don't see it up at the top, which is great. So let's do something really fast. So if we had content in one of our files, so let's go back into tauntaun stomach. Let's just do that. Let's do list to see what we got here. So we have our hot hog. Now, this is a quick way we can put content into a file that actually, you know what, actually, let's do this. Since we installed that code command in our path, we can actually open this file, open this directory in VS Code to see what everything looks like. And if we wanted to write code in here, we could do that using the terminal itself. We can actually get right into VS Code using the terminal. And let's go back one directory. Let's go into the tauntaun. Let's just do it here. So navigate into just tauntaun. Change directory into tauntaun, and then you're going to type code space dot. Now, what this does is code is a command that we added into our path environment variable, and that is what we ran in VS Code itself. So VS Code basically was like, oh, cool, I'm going to install something so that your terminal knows that this is a command to do something with this application. So we did that already, and then we did space and then dot. So dot here, a single dot, just means here, right where I am, this current working directory. So like when you type out pwd, print working directory, dot basically means the same thing as print working directory. It just means currently here, right where I am. And it's the dots indicate directories. So when you say cd ... that means go back 2 directories, because you see like directory, the ... So dots generally mean directory. And this one means right here, right where we are. So if we type this, it is going to automatically open up VS Code inside of the directory we are currently in, which is kind of cool. That let me know if that doesn't work for you guys. Travis, what do we got? Okay, so if we do code dot, this is what should normally happen, and we'll get you figured out. We'll get to this point, but you'll be able to open VS Code and actually see that you have your directory structure in here. You have your stomach, you have all this stuff. And let's pretend that we had some HTML in here. So this is going to be a bunch of crappy HTML because it's a buttload of divs. So let's save this, okay? And we're going to put like some stuff. Test thingy. Okay. So we have a tiny bit of HTML in here. It's not valid. That's okay. I'm going to close that. So we have a file that has some HTML in it. You can actually just type a bunch of crap in there, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be HTML or anything. Just put content inside of it. Travis, since VS Code isn't working for you, let's go ahead and run this command. So you're going to run echo, type echo, and then space, and then do an open quote. You could close it and then go inside of it, whatever you like. It'll be quote, quote. And then just put, a bunch of stuff, some things, just put a bunch of text with different spaces and whatnot.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you write. Okay, and then you're going to do a right bracket and whatever the name of that file was. So I did hothog.html. And then when you hit enter, hopefully that doesn't give you any errors or anything.
Nope.
Okay, so the echo command basically just spits out crap, and you can use the bracket to like put it into files. So we just echoed that string into our hothog.html file. So we basically just put content in there without having to use VS Code. For everybody else who does have VS Code open, and if anybody added stuff, that's great. What we're going to do now is we're going to check the contents of a file. So using the terminal, we can actually print out the contents of a text file. Usually you're going to do this with code really quickly and easily by using a command called cat. So type cat space, and we're going to type the name of our file. So we want to look at what's inside of hothog.html. And when we run this, it's going to spit out the content of the file directly into our terminal right here, which is pretty awesome. Did that work for you, Travis? Woo, sweet. Did anybody else manage to get that spit out to see their stuff? Great, great, great. So this is a really helpful way for you to check the contents of shorter files. If they're super, super long, they're going to just spit out and like totally take up all the space on your terminal, and you have to scroll through them and whatnot. So it's not useful for really, really long files, but for short ones, you can quickly check and see if it has like what you're looking for. It has the content you think it does, or if the change you made showed up the way you expected it to. Cat is a great command, and that stands for concatenate, is kind of what it's based on, which is kind of about strings and putting these together. You don't need to worry about that. It's just cat. Cat is a good command to just check stuff. And you can run that on any type of file, anything you want, and it'll just spit out the contents, which is a really cool feature of using the terminal, a quick way to look for things. So next up, we are going to talk about a few more commands. Some of these guys are going to get a little bit more, a little complicated, and obviously you're not going to remember all of these. That's okay. Like I said, keep this markdown file open, and you're going to reference all this stuff when you're doing the homework. But we're going to learn a command called grep. Grepping is how you search. Why it's called a grep, I don't actually know. I haven't looked that up. Does anybody know why grep is called grep on here?
Oh, I forget.
So we're going to learn how to search things using the terminal, and this is a really, really handy command. And this usually works in like pairing with another command that's called a pipe. So we're going to learn these two pieces together, and we're going to kind of use what we just did here to take a look at that. So cat spit out the content. So let's type that command again. So cat hothog.html. grep.html. And we're gonna do a space. So don't run it yet, but just type that out. So we're gonna cat this. And we know that the output of this is just text. It's the content of our file. It's that string that came out above us. So what if we wanted to do something with that output, or to kind of hold on to it so we can check it? And in this case, we want to search it for something. We're going to use a pipe. So pipe is this symbol here. So if you hit shift and then you hit backslash, shift backslash is going to create a pipe for you. So the character is called pipe in programming. And what a pipe is doing basically is it's saying everything to the left of it, whatever happens, whatever that output, that's going to run. Your terminal is going to run that. And it's going to say, okay, that output is a bunch of stuff, some things, test, blah, blah, blah. It's that text. And then now on the right-hand side of the pipe, we have access to that. We can say, okay, now what do I want to do with that value? And we're going to use a command called grep, which is very, very commonly used with pipe. You'll see this all the time. So you'll see, something that spits stuff out, pipe grep. This is a great thing to remember, is just using grep with pipe. So we're going to pipe it out into grep, and grep is a command that takes an operand to search for something. So this is basically like a search bar. So if we wanted to search for just the word things, what this is going to do is it's going to spit out the line that has that value we're searching for, if it exists in the file. If it doesn't, it just won't spit anything out. So we spit that out and we see, okay, sweet. It gave us back pretty much the same values because we only had one line of text in there. If we did have if we had a bunch of stuff like we did with the HTML, so if we had a bunch of like new lines in here, let's go ahead and save that. Okay, sorry. I was just doing that quickly to add content that has multiple lines. So if we spit out what we had in there, so cat hoth hog. So now we have multiple lines in here. The reason I'm adding this is so that we can kind of see what the output looks like when there's multiple lines in a file. So if we were to do that hoth hog grep, and let's search for test. So this just gives us a single line that has the result in it. So we know that the file that we ran the cat command on actually contains the word test because it spit it out and it highlighted it. And if you don't have the highlight, that's okay. It should still just spit it out, same functionality. So we see like this is what the file actually looked like. And we catted that out to our terminal. Cool. And then we took that content, we said, okay, let's do the same thing again, pipe into grep, and let's search for a term called test. So really for now, keep these kind of together in your head. Using pipe and grep are a really helpful way to search through files. So this is an awesome tool you can use. One thing we can add to this that I don't want this to be too overwhelming, but this is an important command as well to know. And this, like I said, this is noted. We do have this written down and whatnot so you can reference. But if you do the same command, you can add something with a dash to the end of it. So using dashes like this in the terminal, this is called a flag. Flags can be used all over the place for a ton of different commands. And they basically modify commands in the terminal. So flags are used to modify things. There are different types of them. Every command has different letters or different terms you type in as a flag to change it. And you can learn about those online or by using a command in the terminal we're going to look at right here at the end. But in this case, we're going to use -C, and we're going to put a number. Let's put 4. What this does is this is going to allow us to see what's above and below, 4 lines above, 4 lines below test. How do you remember this? You might not remember this. That's totally fine. You might just have to look this up. But what's important to remember is that if it has a dash and it's kind of it looks like it's after a certain command in the terminal, it's called a flag. This is the -C flag. Sometimes they're called like arguments. I don't know if that's as accurate, but this is a way for us to change how this command runs. Like I said, again, I know this is a lot, and like you're definitely not going to remember all of this. That's okay. But there's one command that will help you a lot that will, allow you to learn things in the terminal very, very quickly, and that is man. So the command man stands for manual. Manual is the dopest thing you can do at the terminal. If you forgot, if you're like, I remember grep is like a thing that I can do, but I have no idea how to use it. Use the man page. They'll refer to them as the man page, which is the manual page. So if we do man grep, this is going to tell us what grep is, how we can use it. So this is the whole manual for Git is like just in your terminal now because we downloaded Git, which is dope. Or sorry, not Git, for any of these like terminal commands. So we just got a crap load of text. Some of this is really hard to parse through. Some of the times it's really confusing, but it will tell you everything you need to know if you have the patience and the ability to like parse through some of this stuff. And it tells you about what options are available. And these are the flags we were talking about. So we can see, oh, C -C, and then it takes a number, and then it prints the number of lines leading and trailing the context surrounding each match. So you can find out what you need to know and how you can use a flag or an argument more by using the man command. To leave that man page, you type Q for quit. Q for quit. You just hit the letter Q. So we can do man on anything. So I encourage you to try it out right now. Run a man page on a different command. So like you could do, we know that we learned ls. So let's run man on ls. Sweet. You can hit enter to keep going down, or you can scroll it with your mouse and then Q to quit. Any command you can use the manual page for to learn more about. So I highly recommend you put that in your brain, man. Just type it, you put it before whatever command you want to look for, and that will search all the documentation to tell you what it does. So super powerful tool. And if you wanted to do something like this, but you forgot what the syntax was, that page will help you get there. Okay. So we learned pipe, grep. Those are super handy. We learned how we can see extra lines around a grep in the output. There is another command we can use called head that it just shows you the top 10 lines, the first 10 lines of a file, which is really nice in case there's like a header or some kind of special information at the top of a file. Head is really good. We can also use another flag called n-n that gives you a numbered list. Whoops. I think that has to go after the end of the argument. And this is another thing, if you think you kind of remember how an argument is put together or how to, write a command, you can always just give it a shot. And usually it'll give you some information about what you did wrong, and it might guide you in the right place to write it the right way. Okay, so I'm obviously doing this wrong. Maybe I have to do that with cat. There we go. Okay, so that was just some trial and error to figure out how to get there. That kind of stuff happens all the time where you're like, I don't remember where exactly this flag is supposed to go, but I know that I can do this to add this in. In this case, what we just did is we used the -n to give line numbers to the output. And we're using it with cat, the cat command. This may only be usable with cat. If we did the man page on cat, it would tell us what we can do here, or even just look that flag up online. But this is helpful if you want to see the line numbers for things or know specifically what stuff is. This will come in handy for the homework. That's particularly why we're looking at that. We also have commands to copy and delete things, and moving things as well. I don't think we're going over move specifically in here, but we can look those up, or we can run the man page on them. But let's look at copy really quick. So let's do ls. Let's copy the guts to make more guts. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to type cp. Cp is the syntax for copy, and then you're going to type in the name of the file you want to change, or the one you want to duplicate, and then you're going to do a space, and then you're going to do the name of what you want it to be named when you duplicate it. So this is another handy thing about the terminal that's really fast. You can name files exactly what you want them to be right off the bat when you duplicate them, rather than having to like duplicate them and then change the name like you would have to in the Finder. So once we've done that, we're going to have to check with list, and we should see that we have guts and guts2, or whatever you titled it, this in the second operand of the cp command. Now, if we wanted to remove just the first one, we're going to use a command remove, which is rm. And let's do rm guts.txt. And that just takes one operand, which is just what you want to remove. If we run ls now, we should list, and we see that that first one is gone. So those guys are handy. If you wanted to remove a directory, you have to pass a flag, an -r flag to it. Like I said, this is all written down in the lesson plan here. Don't have to go over everything here. There's a little bit more information on a few other helpful commands. Once again, you're going to want to reference those a lot. And the way that you're going to learn this moving forward is really just by doing it. So for now, as we're going through this course and as we're learning, what I encourage you to do is use cd the ls command and opening directories using code dot, which Travis will get that figured out for you. But for now, like it's just really helpful to kind of force yourself to suffer through using the terminal instead of your Finder to open things and to navigate through things, because that's going to pay off in the long run. And that's how we're going to learn this, really, is just by doing that. So for now, we just went through a bunch of commands. It's probably a little bit too much, so I apologize for that. But just know that you want to be navigating your directories with cd and cd dot dot to go backwards. And you're going to want to use ls to list things. And then definitely be using the code command to open them up, or whatever the similar command is for something like Atom or another IDE. So I just want people to get in the habit of trying to use the terminal. So when we talk about going somewhere, we're going to create a directory in here for your work. So create like a workspace or dev delta directory, wherever you want it to be. So use the mkdir command to create that in the terminal. And then you're always going to go there. And that's where all of our projects are going to go. That's where you're going to create every folder for all the projects we're building and working on. And just try to use the terminal as much as possible. You want to avoid navigating using the Finder if you can when we're working on code projects. So that's the big takeaway. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here. There are millions more things you can do with the terminal and with Git. But if you want to learn about something, if you found a command that seems like it might do what you want, you can use the manual page on it. Don't forget about that. Cool. So that's kind of intro to the terminal. There is a lot more to go with this. If you scroll down to the very bottom of the page to the command line GitHub repo, you'll see that we have a homework section here. And under the homework, we are going to basically get this code onto your machine. Let's see, Nathan, I don't think you should have a problem with this. You should still be able to do this. So let me know if you guys have this page here open. If you guys do, what we're going to do for the homework is we're going to be using our GitHub accounts. So we're going to use your GitHub accounts to take this code down and basically duplicate it onto your own account. So you have a copy of this whole thing, because there's some directories in here, some folders in here that we're going to be navigating for the homework. And it's a puzzle rebel trader hunt. You're going to be finding a rebel in the a rebel infiltrator into the empire. So if you don't like Star Wars, you're really screwed on this one. But in the top right here, what I'm going to have you guys do is click this button here. It says fork. Does everybody see that? And is everyone logged in? Yeah. Okay, go ahead and click on fork. Now, when you click on fork, you should see now that this changes up here, and it's no longer under my GitHub. It should be a version of yours. So you should see your name / blah blah blah, and it might say forked from Michael Briley, something like that. You guys see something like that? Okay, awesome. So we have duplicated this work into your space, which is awesome. So now any changes that you make to this code is totally not going to affect this, because you have a copy. You have your own copy to work with, which is great. So this is actually what you just did is a little bit of Git. You actually used Git, that whole piece of branching and the time machine and all that crap. You're on GitHub, and GitHub under the hood actually uses Git to do some of the stuff. So we forked it, we duplicated it. You have your own copy. Now, what you want to do is you want to take it from the internet and you want to get that down onto your computer so that we can do some stuff with it. And you can actually CD into those directories and make changes and see it there. So to do that, we're going to click on this green code button here. And you should see an option under HTTPS. HTTPS should be highlighted or underlined. And then you should see this little clipboard. Does everybody see that? So go ahead and click on that copy to clipboard. And once you have that copied, we're going to go back into the terminal. Now, in your terminal, if you haven't already created a place where you want all of our projects to live, go ahead and do that now. And Nathan, this might not work for you yet. Nathan, what you can do is go ahead and instead of copying that, just hit download zip. You can download the zip file. And then if you need to, you can kind of if you want to email that back and forth or Slack it back and forth to yourself, you can pass that between computers if needed. So this will give you the actual downloaded folder itself. For everybody else, go ahead and run git clone and then paste in, just Command V or right click paste in what you copied from GitHub. Once again, this is using the Git software that we downloaded. So we downloaded Git, and clone is a command that Git takes to basically do what it says, like clone. So take it from the internet and duplicate it on my computer. So you're going to git clone and then paste in that URL that you copied and hit enter, and hopefully it works. Oh, it's not what I pasted. Let me know what you guys see when you run that. Did anybody get any errors when they did that? Sean, did that work? Oh, Sean, you already did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Colin, it worked for you?
Yeah.
Sweet. Travis, is it going? Okay, great. So now that we did that, wherever you ran that command, go ahead and type ls, and you should actually see the new directory that we just copied down. Do you guys see that? The command line directory? So now what you can do is, just like we had been navigating between our tauntaun and the stomach and just screwing around with that test directory that we were making, we can change directory into that one. So you're going to do cd command line. And when you run cd command line, you go inside of it, and we are inside of the command line directory. And we're going to be actually right here at this point that we're looking at this markdown document, which is kind of sweet. So from here, at this point, you're going to be able to follow the instructions in the homework. So we cloned down the repo to our local machine. We did that first piece, that first bullet point. Now we've navigated to the newly cloned directory using the terminal. The last thing we need to do, now we're on this bullet point, cd into the rebel trader hunt directory, use the cat command to read the contents of the file, instructions from Vader to get started. So there is a lot of help in this one, because obviously these commands are not something everybody's gonna have memorized. But hopefully this is a fun thing to work on. It really is just going to try to flex the muscles of using the terminal more. That's the whole purpose of the homework on this one. And it's like a mystery. It's actually I forked a separate repo that's like a command line mystery that's all like Sherlock Holmes themed, and I turned it into a Star Wars themed thing. So basically you're searching for a rebel traitor in the Empire on the Death Star, and you are given clues and leads, and you have to navigate between directories, and you have to use grep to search, and you have to use cat. So you're gonna have to use all the commands that we went through. They're all here. So don't be too stressed about that. Everything is here to reference. And then also, if you get stuck at all, there's a few levels of hints here. So there's hints built into the repo itself that this initial file will guide you with, that you can just use the cat command to cat out the hints. If those don't pan out for you, I created a whole nother markdown file called walkthrough. And you can just read. So I would leave this page open in your browser, this command line lesson plan that we're kind of looking at. So leave this open as you're navigating through here. So that way you can reference all the commands. If you forgot anything, you can command F for them or whatever. And then also just click on this walkthrough file here, open this in another tab if you need to. And this is going to give you all of the commands you actually need to run at each point if you really struggle and can't get there. There's also hints. So if you just want extra hints, you can open the hints and kind of look at those guys. And then it won't tell you exactly what to do, but it'll get really close. And then it'll tell you what to do specifically. So for this one, for example, is just cding, changing directory into a directory. And then this will walk you through the entire thing if you need it. So like I said, I know it's a lot. I know I just vomited all over you guys, but I hope that some of that absorbs and you can just take that and run with it. And like I said, just practice doing it. That's really the only thing. If all you learn is how to run ls and change directory, that's awesome. We're making progress. So
do we have to could we use like Vim and stuff to open up files, or do you want us to be using code?
No, you can use Vim if you want to.
Okay.
Code is just easier for whoever. I mean, if you're at the point where you want to use Vim to like edit files and stuff, you can you can happily do that. We're just gonna, the baseline is gonna be VSCode, and we're gonna make sure.
Also, I would advise, everyone, you can also open up a new terminal too. So you have the instructions and the window next to each other. It might make it easy. You can have like multiple windows for navigating.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good point. You can definitely do extra. You can do Command T to just open another tab. Yep, so that can be helpful. Absolutely, that's a good point, Sean. So I'm sorry, guys. It went super long today. Technical problems, a lot of trash.
Totally fine.
So we didn't really get into Git that much. that's something we're going to go over later. And I think too, I kind of wanted the last piece of this to have everybody kind of turn in, quote unquote, turn in their joke homework by using Git to go ahead and like put it on GitHub. I think I'll share like some kind of walkthrough to do that just on GitHub itself, like just a markdown file like this, if you guys want to. So just a little quick little intro to how we're going to turn in homework, because we're moving away from Stacklets. We're going to be using VS Code now, which is going to be way better. And we're going to be able to use Git to save our work and basically turn it in. So that's what we're going to do in the future. That will probably just be a part of next week's class. And I'll try to have next week's a little bit better organized and fix these. I don't know why this computer keeps crapping out on me. So I think this cloud recording is going to help. So thanks for bearing with me, guys. Appreciate it. That's pretty much it.